The morning sun bathed blue horizon in a golden light. It was a new day. Long shadows stretched from the newly rebuilt barn. The air was crisp, clean.
Jett and I were already up. We moved with purpose. The recent attack had shaken us, but our spirits were unbroken.
Jett took a deep breath, the scent of pine and damp earth filling his lungs. He looked out over the ranch, his ranch. It was more than just land. It was his legacy.
I worked beside him, my movements efficient, my face etched with determination. We had poured our heart and soul into Blue Horizon. We wouldn't let Virelli take it from us.
The attack had been brutal. Virelli's men had come in the night like wolves. But Blue Horizon was still standing. They had rebuilt. They would persevere. The thought of Virelli fueled their determination. They knew he wouldn't stop. They had to be ready. The charred remains of the old barn were a stark reminder of Virelli's ruthlessness. It was a scar on the land, a wound that ran deep, but even in the ashes there were signs of life. Wildflowers pushed through the scorched earth, their petals reaching for the sun.
Jett ran his hand over the smooth wood of the newly constructed fence. Each nail hammered, each board set, was a testament to our resilience. Virelli had tried to break us, but he had only made us stronger. We were united.
Jennifer moved through the rows of vegetables, checking for damage. The garden had also suffered, but new growth was already visible. Life found a way. Hope, like a seedling, began to take root in their hearts. They couldn't let fear cripple them. They had to keep moving forward. They had to keep fighting for Blue Horizon, for their future, for the legacy that would be theirs. Jett called a meeting. He needed to rally their allies. They gathered in the main house, ranch hands, neighbors, friends. The atmosphere was tense, but their spirits were high. They were in this together.
Jett spoke, his voice firm. Virelli wants to break us. He wants us to be too scared to fight back. But we won't let him.
His words resonated with the others. They nodded in agreement.
I stepped forward. My gaze swept over the faces in the room. We need a plan, I said. A plan to protect what's ours.
Her words were met with a murmur of agreement. Every day was a battle now. Every sunrise a chance to fight back. They would not be deterred. They would not be broken. Blue Horizon would endure. Jett scanned the faces around him, each one etched with a mix of concern and determination. These were good people, hard-working people. They deserved to feel safe on their own land. He wouldn't let them down.
We've rebuilt, Jett began, his voice rough but steady. But Virelli won't stop. We need to be ready.
His words hung heavy in the air. The recent attack was a stark reminder of the danger they faced.
A wave of agreement rippled through the room. We had all seen Virelli's ruthlessness firsthand. Our homes, our livelihoods, our very way of life was under threat. We need to know what he's planning, I added, my voice clear and strong. We need information.
Her eyes, sharp and intelligent, scanned the room seeking answers. Sheriff Carter, a weathered figure who had seen his fair share of trouble, stepped forward.
I might have something.
His voice was low but confident.
A lead.
His words sparked a flicker of hope in the room.
There's talk in town. Someone working with Virelli but having second thoughts. Someone who might be willing to talk.
He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in.
Who?
Jett asked, his voice sharp with urgency. They needed every advantage they could get. Time was of the essence.
Can't say for sure yet. Meeting tonight. If they show, we'll know more.
He exuded a quiet confidence that reassured the room. The day stretched on, each hour an eternity. Jett and Jennifer worked side by side, their movements mechanical, their minds consumed by the upcoming meeting. The weight of their hopes and fears hung heavy in the air. Doubts lingered in Jett's mind. Could they trust this informant? Was it a trap? Virelli was cunning, capable of anything, but they had to try. They had no other choice. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the ranch, a sense of foreboding settled over Jett. He couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into the unknown. The meeting was their only chance. A chance to gain the upper hand, a chance to protect their home, a chance to save Blue Horizon. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across Blue Horizon, Jett and Jennifer prepared for the journey into town. A palpable tension filled the air, a mixture of anticipation and dread. They knew this meeting could change everything. Jennifer adjusted her shawl, her fingers nervously tracing the embroidered flowers. Her heart pounded against her ribs like a trapped bird. She tried to focus on the task at hand, but her thoughts raced with possibilities. Would the informant show? Could they trust this person? Jett saddled their horses, his movements swift and practiced. Years of ranch life had honed his instincts. He could sense danger lurking around every corner. He couldn't shake the feeling of unease that settled in the pit of his stomach. He glanced at Jennifer, her face pale in the fading light. He knew she was just as worried as he was. He placed a reassuring hand on her arm, his touch a silent promise of protection. The ride into town was a blur, the rhythmic beat of hooves against the dusty trail, the distant call of a nightbird, the scent of pine needles and damp earth, all faded into the background as Jett and Jennifer rode alongside Sheriff Carter. The weight of their mission pressed down on them. They carried the hopes and fears of everyone at Blue Horizon on their shoulders. The fate of the ranch, their future, rested on the outcome of this meeting.
Jett, do you think we'll find the answers we need?
As they approached the outskirts of town, the last rays of sunlight painted the sky in hues of orange, purple, and gold. It was a breathtaking sight, a reminder of the beauty they were fighting to protect. But even the beauty of the sunset couldn't completely erase the worry etched on their faces. The saloon loomed ahead, a beacon of light and noise in the gathering darkness. The sound of laughter, drunken shouts, and off-key piano music spilled out into the night, a stark contrast to the heavy silence that hung between them.
Stay close. This place can get rough after dark.
The saloon was crowded. Ranchers, cowboys, miners, and drifters rubbed shoulders at the bar, their voices blending in a cacophony of sound. The air was thick with the smell of stale beer, sweat, and cheap tobacco. Jett, Jennifer, and Sheriff Carter made their way through the throng, their eyes scanning the room for any sign of their contact. They found a table in a dimly lit corner, away from the worst of the noise and bustle.
I don't like this, Jett. It's too crowded.
The minutes ticked by with agonizing slowness. Each tick of the clock seemed to amplify the tension that crackled in the air. Jett tapped his fingers restlessly on the table, his gaze fixed on the entrance. Jennifer sat stiffly, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her eyes darting nervously around the room. Sheriff Carter remained stoic, his weathered face betraying nothing.
Stay calm, he'll show.
Doubt gnawed at the edges of Jett's hope. What if this was a trap? What if they had walked into Virelli's web? He couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched.
Do you think Virelli knows we're here?
If he does, we'll deal with it. Just keep your eyes open.
Just when their hope began to dwindle, a figure appeared in the doorway. A young man, his face partially obscured by the shadows, hesitated at the entrance. His eyes darted around the room, searching, apprehensive. This had to be him. Billy. Sheriff Carter had told them his name. He was just a boy, barely a man, caught in a web of deceit and danger. His fear was palpable. Jett could practically taste it in the air.
Is that him, Carter?
Yes, that's Billy.
Billy took a hesitant step inside, then another. He moved like a hunted animal, his body tense, ready to bolt at the slightest sound. He clutched something in his hand, a small, crumpled piece of paper. Carter nodded, a subtle signal that only Jett and Jennifer would notice. This was their man, their only hope.
Jett, be careful, he looks scared.
Jett's hand instinctively moved towards his holster, his finger hovering over the butt of his revolver. He wouldn't let anything happen to Jennifer. He wouldn't let Billy get hurt.
Let's make this quick and quiet. We don't want to draw any attention.
The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air as they prepared to make their move. Billy shuffled towards their table, his eyes downcast, avoiding their gaze. He moved with a weariness that belied his young age. He had seen too much, heard too much. He carried a heavy burden, the weight of his secrets etched on his youthful face.
Thanks for coming, son. Have a seat.
Billy's eyes darted towards Jett and Jennifer. He seemed to shrink under their gaze, his fear almost tangible.
It's all right, Billy. We're here to help.
She could see the fear in his eyes, the tremor in his hands. He was risking everything to meet with them. They had to make him understand that they were on his side.
Virelli, he's planning something big.
Billy's words tumbled out in a torrent of fear and desperation. He spoke of Virelli's network of powerful allies, men who would stop at nothing to control the land, men who would crush anyone who stood in their way. He spoke of bribes, threats, and violence, of a conspiracy that ran deeper than they could have imagined. He spoke of an impending attack, more ruthless, more devastating than the last. Jett's blood ran cold as he listened. They were facing a force far more sinister than they had anticipated.
He's looking for something. A document. A land grant. This map. It might lead you to it. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a crumpled piece of paper.
Jennifer took the map, her fingers brushing against Billy's. She could feel the fear that emanated from him, the desperation in his touch. This young man, this accidental hero, had just handed them their only chance at salvation. The ride back to Blue Horizon was a blur. Jett urged his horse forward, Jennifer riding close beside him. The map, clutched tightly in her hand, felt heavy with significance. It was more than just a piece of paper. It was a lifeline, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. They rode in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. The weight of Billy's revelations pressed down on them. Virelli's web of corruption ran deeper than they had imagined. The stakes had just been raised. As they approached the ranch, the first rays of dawn painted the eastern sky in hues of pink and orange. The sight of their home, bathed in the soft morning light, filled them with a renewed sense of determination. They had a chance to fight back, to protect what was theirs. The land grant, if they could find it, could be their salvation. It was a long shot, but it was all they had. Jett gathered their closest allies in the main house. Tom, their loyal foreman, his face creased with worry. Sarah, their cook, her weathered hands clasped tightly in her lap, and a handful of ranch hands, their faces grim but resolute. These were the people who had stood by them through thick and thin, the people they trusted with their lives.
Billy gave us this. He said it might lead us to the land grant.
Jennifer unfolded the map on the table, its creases soft from years of being hidden away. The paper crackled softly, the sound amplified in the silence of the room. All eyes were on the map, on the crudely drawn lines and faded ink.
It looks like it leads to the northern boundary.
Near the old creek bed.
Hope flickered in Jett's chest, a fragile flame in the face of overwhelming odds.
Then that's where we'll start.
He wouldn't let doubt creep in. Not now, not when they had a chance to fight back. He looked around the room, at the faces of his friends, his family. They were tired, worried, but their spirits were unbroken. They had faced hardship before, and they had emerged stronger.
We need to move fast. Virelli knows about the land grant. He'll be looking for it too.
The weight of their task settled on their shoulders. They were racing against time, against a ruthless enemy who would stop at nothing to destroy them. But they also had something Virelli didn't have. They had the courage of their convictions, the strength of their community, and the burning desire to protect what was rightfully theirs. The morning sun beat down on their backs as they rode north, following the course of the old creek bed. The map was spread out on Jett's saddle horn, its edges flapping in the wind. They rode in silence, each lost in their own thoughts, the weight of their mission heavy on their shoulders. The northern boundary was wild, untamed. Dense forests gave way to rocky outcrops and steep ravines. The air was thick with the scent of pine needles and damp earth. It was easy to imagine the land as it once was, untouched by greed or ambition.
Think Billy drew this map from memory?
Tom asked, his voice barely audible above the creak of leather and the rhythmic thud of hooves against the soft earth.
Had to be. He probably only saw it once, maybe twice.
Jennifer traced the lines on the map with her finger, her brow furrowed in concentration. It was a long shot, relying on a map drawn by a frightened young man, but it was all they had. They rode for hours, the sun climbing higher in the sky. The air grew heavy and still, the silence broken only by the occasional bird call and the rustle of leaves as a squirrel darted through the undergrowth. They stopped briefly at midday to rest the horses and eat a simple meal of jerky and biscuits. The weight of their mission hung heavy in the air, unspoken but ever present.
This land, it whispers to you if you listen closely enough.
Jett nodded, understanding in his eyes. He had felt it too, the echoes of the past, the stories embedded in the very fabric of the land, stories of hardship and resilience, of dreams fought for and won.
Our family history is buried here somewhere. We just have to find it.
As the afternoon wore on, their hope began to dwindle. The map had led them in circles more than once, and the terrain was becoming increasingly difficult to navigate. Doubts crept in, whispering insidious doubts in their ears.
Maybe it's just a story, an old wives' tale.
Jennifer refused to give in to despair. She had staked everything on this search, on the belief that the land grant existed, that it could save their home. To admit defeat now, to accept that they had come this far for nothing, was unthinkable.
We can't give up, not yet. Not when we've come this far.
Jett placed a reassuring hand on her arm, his touch conveying a silent message of support. He, too, was starting to lose hope, but he wouldn't let Jennifer see his doubt.
We'll find it, we just need to keep looking.
The sun was a fiery ball on the horizon, casting long shadows across the land, when Jennifer saw it. A subtle change in the landscape, a slight irregularity that would have been easy to miss. A pile of rocks, carefully arranged, almost hidden amongst the trees.
Jett, over here!
Jett and Tom rode over, their eyes following her gaze. The pile of rocks was unremarkable at first glance, but as they drew closer, they could see that it was not a natural formation. The rocks had been placed there deliberately by human hands a long time ago.
Help me move them.
Together they began to move the rocks, their hands working quickly, their movements fueled by a surge of adrenaline. As the last of the rocks were removed, they uncovered a small metal box, tarnished with age but still intact. Jennifer's heart pounded in her chest. Could this be it? Was this the key to their future, the answer to their prayers? Jett knelt down, his calloused fingers gently brushing away the dirt clinging to the metal box. It was heavier than he expected, cold and solid in his hands. A shiver ran down his spine, a mixture of anticipation and awe. This small, unassuming box held the weight of generations, the hopes and dreams of those who had come before. He carefully lifted the lid, the hinges groaning softly in protest after years of silence. Inside, nestled on a bed of faded velvet, lay a stack of documents. They were yellowed with age, the ink faded but still legible. The musty scent of time wafted up, carrying with it the whispers of the past.
Oh my God.
Jennifer gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. She had never dared to believe they would actually find it. The land grant, the proof they needed to fight back against Virelli, to reclaim their birthright.
Well, I'll be. Those old stories were true.
Jett carefully lifted the top document, his rough fingers handling the fragile paper with unexpected tenderness. It was a deed, dated 1868, the script elegant and flowing. He recognized the name scrawled in bold strokes at the bottom of the page, Jacob Johnson, his great-grandfather, the founder of Blue Horizon.
Read it, Jett.
He began to read aloud, his voice rough with emotion. The words echoing through the stillness of the forest spoke of hardship and determination, of a dream forged in the crucible of the Wild West. They spoke of a promise made, a legacy passed down through generations. Jennifer listened intently, her eyes shining with tears. It wasn't just a legal document, it was a testament to the enduring strength of family, the unbreakable bond that tied them to this land. This was their heritage, their birthright, and they would fight to protect it. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the land, they rode back to Blue Horizon, the weight of the metal box a comforting presence. They were tired, their bodies aching from the long ride, but their spirits soared. They had the proof they needed. They had a fighting chance.
We did it, we really did it.
The fight was far from over, they knew that. Virelli was a formidable enemy, ruthless and cunning, but they were no longer just fighting for their home, for their livelihood. They were fighting for their legacy, for the future of Blue Horizon, and they would not be deterred. The land grant was more than just a piece of paper. It was a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, justice could prevail. It was a promise whispered on the wind, a legacy etched in ink, a testament to the enduring spirit of Blue Horizon. The battle had just begun.